welcome to the Daily Telegraph NRL Podcast. Adam Mobbs here with the summer crew. Russell Summer Jackson and Matt going to the beach incarnation. Penrith Beach.
Yeah.
The new Penrith Beach.
Although I heard there's a bit of drama with that beach, isn't there?
Oh, accessibility issues. Look, you know, it's not like... It's hard because it's natural, you know. It's not one of these things that you can sit there and go and manufacture and do all this stuff. So it's like Bondi. It is what it is, isn't it? So
I guess on a 40 degree day like this, I'm not sure whether you'd want to be in air conditioning or out at the beach.
It was a shocker last weekend. It was so hot. Luckily, it had cooled down before the Foo Fighters concert, so that was good.
Has your air conditioning unit or issue been sorted out yet, or are we still...
No, it hasn't.
Okay.
I've got a couple of mobile portable units at the moment, but yeah, I won't bore people with that because it's just there's way too much happening. But Matty, you're out in Penrith yesterday.
It was a stinker out there.
Yeah.
That was hot enough for me, thanks. One day's enough.
You went out to visit Nathan Cleary. How was he?
Yeah, it was good to see Nath back in flesh for the first time since coming back. I did kind of pester him with a couple of Mary Fowler questions. He wasn't quite biting, but there was a rousing reception at Nepean Hospital. Good to see the boys getting out in the community and a bunch of different wards too, handing out some Christmas gifts. So good on the Panthers.
Did they take him in and say, listen, we know you're all feeling, you're going through health issues, but things could be worse. You could be a Panther.
For who?
No, I'm just one of the old reverse ferret jokes, mate. Don't worry. You'll get it later.
Too old.
We need to get straight into the West Tigers. So as Reedy previewed on this podcast a few weeks ago, the broom has gone through the wooden spooners. The board has effectively decided to sack itself, remove itself. Justin Pascoe, the CEO, is gone. Lee Hadjipentelis is gone as chair. Not very happy, Lee, as he said in some interviews. He spoke to Reedy this week and on radio. Wasn't very happy with that. Incoming, Barry O'Farrell, former New South Wales Premier, comes in on an interim board, chair for 6 months, or the board's in for 6 months. But the key appointment for mine, interim CEO Shane Richardson. That is big.
Yeah, sure is. What a massive exclusive from Brent Reid and Michael Carianis. Beat everybody to that story. And fantastic work from the guys. But yeah, look, they had no choice, the Tigers. I think, you know, as soon as they set up the review, I think we all knew that what was going to happen. Or, you know, maybe there was one surprise. I think I thought Pascoe might have survived. That was the mail for quite a while, that he was going to survive and be given a chance to work under a different board. But yeah, I think if you're a Tigers fan, you'd be pretty happy about this. Yeah,
absolutely. The thing for me is that the football department is where there are concerns, because you've got Benji Marshall, who has never been a head coach before. You have no general manager of football. So you needed someone, and there's very few people in rugby league at the moment who could do both sides of the CEO job as far as business acumen and sporting intelligence and excellence. And the track record of Richo, he does both. So he came in when the Sharks were at their lowest ebb, under facing liquidation and everything else, takes them to the 97 Super League Grand Final. Does the same thing with the Panthers in 2003, takes them to the Premiership, and South in 2014. Took a little longer there, takes them to a Premiership. And in his words, South are in a lot worse state than the West Tigers are at the moment, Matty. So where do you see this going from here?
Does it have to be 6 months? I mean, they've been stewing on this review for however long. It dragged on for, seemed like forever. But my first reaction to seeing some of that stuff over the past few days was both Barry O'Farrell and Shane Richardson. And I think everyone's in agreement that Richo is going to be good because he's been there, done it before, and he's been quite strong in the fact that he has. But like 6 months, what if the Tigers start 0-3? Do they
haven't played finals in 12 years. What's 6 months going to do? I think, you know, maybe to get Richo on board, you need to say 6 months, because Richo was moving into semi-retirement. You know, he stepped away from football, from South. Him and his young bloke started Rich Digital. He's their company there. So, and maybe he didn't. He's had approaches about coming in to back to rugby league and helping out different areas. So maybe they said, look, let's give it 6 months, see how you feel. But I think they're going to need him longer than that, because you know, without a GM of footy, to be that conduit between the football department and the board, you're going to need a guy like Richo, and they've given him the power, as interim CEO, to go in and make the changes. And he said he wouldn't have done it under the previous board because they wouldn't have allowed him the power necessary to make the changes he has. Yep. But I tell you what, now you've got. He said all the right things, Richo, yesterday. I'm supporting Benji. I'm backing Benji. Yeah. I will not sign a player that Benji doesn't want. This is also the guy, I think, after South won the 2014 grand final. He said, Madge's got a job here for life, and he was sacked 3 years later. But also goes to show, Richo's not afraid to make the hard decisions. So while he's going to give Benji every chance to succeed, the pressure's now on Benji to succeed, because if Richo doesn't see success or improvement, who knows what's going to happen?
That's right. That's right, and that's the key thing now, isn't it? All this stuff has been not been completely sorted. There's still a few relationships to mend at the Tigers to make them to allow them to do what they want to do.
What are you talking about?
Oh well, maybe Benji Marshall and Scott Fulton perhaps need to sit down and have a
come to
Peroni 3.5 or 2, maybe a day at the golf or something like we had. It was pretty good. So
that was outstanding.
But I think all this aside, the footy team has to start. No one's expecting them top 4, top 8, any of that stuff. They just want, the Tigers fans want a team to be proud of. They want a team that competes, and making the finals would be nice. But can they do it?
Yeah. Well, no, not first year, not next year. But you make a really good point around Scott Fulton and Benji Marshall, because when Richo said, I will not sign a player that Benji Marshall doesn't want, we know that they've already butted heads over player signings, Fulton and Marshall, because Benji wanted Aiden Caesar, Scott Fulton was keen on Jack Cogger, Benji won out. Scott Fulton's there for recruitment and retention, and they are not on the same page on some of these things. So making those guys, getting on the same page, making them work together without a head of footy, Richo's got a task ahead of him in that regard, I reckon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he said it right yesterday. He said it's Benji's the front man here. He's got to front up every Sunday, win or lose. Probably more losses than wins, and it's his head and his face and his reputation on the chopping block. So, I think Richo was right in siding in making sure that the coach has the final decision.
Yeah. But I can't understate what a key appointment Richo is, because I mean, Barry O'Farrell, the chair, the board, they'll go in there and they can do the business side of things and go on, get return on investment and look at revenue and everything else. It's, as you said, Russ, it's footy, it's results, and
and that's why Richardson's going to be great. Like I hope he's great. He is going to push all that stuff to one side, hopefully, and allow Benji to run the footy team and get them firing.
So to make them successful, he's immediately said, we are withdrawing from the race to sign Warriors forward Addin Fonua-Blake. Good move? What do you think?
If I was a Tigers fan, put the Tigers fan cap on, I would love to have Fonua-Blake at the Tigers. I'm not sure why they've dropped out there.
He seems to think that that is not a pressing need for them, because they have a good young bunch of forwards. I mean, Clemmer's the veteran there he's still, 27, 28. Vitoe Kamanu, Fonua Pole. You've got John Bateman and Isaiah Papali'i. And so they've got a good young forward pack, so maybe they don't. Maybe that's not where their needs are, but he could not have spoken more highly of Jarome Luai, and it's Luai Richo. He was saying Luau, so after our Mark the winger, Nado, can you say it for me after our pronunciation lessons last week?
Nawanga Nitawazi.
Nawanga Nitawazi. Yes, after our debacle last week.
Marky Mark.
I can't be giving out advice on that. Nawanga Nitawazi.
Yep.
Good yarn with Jamie Pendarham come up this weekend too, I'm understanding.
Yes.
So you think Richo screwed up already?
I don't think he's screwed up. I just think that they're talking about, you mentioned Clemmer there. Like, is Clemmer really got a future at the Tigers?
Well, his stats last season were pretty good. Of course, if you
numbers wise, but impact. You look at the impact of a Fonua-Blake, what he does to the line and things like that, offloads, and I just think the impact is tremendous. Yeah. But look, maybe the cash is getting too silly. Richo's had a look at the books, and thought maybe we can invest our money elsewhere, which is obviously what he's thinking. And yeah, they've got some very good young players. Stefano Takamano is a hell of a player too. I mean, he's still a young prop, he's still 23. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure about Clemmer.
Well, they're all in for your man Luai, and as I was saying, he spoke glowingly about him. Said he's a leader. He's the heart and soul of that football club at Penrith. I don't know what you thought of that one, but good sales pitch to get him in. But again, you look at it, you would take Luai because you've got Caesar, Latu Fanu, Bud Sullivan, Lockie Galvin. But again, you've got sort of 4 or 5. You've got some decent young halves coming through, but they're unknown quantities at the moment. So Luai would come in straight away and lead that. So you doubt they'd be able to keep all those guys anyway. Caesar's 32, so he'd be a season then potentially moving on. Is that where you'd spend your money if you were Richo and the Tigers?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Agree with everything that Richo said about Luai. Gus, I remember Gus saying early on around Nathan's career that Luai was the one out at Penrith that everyone had their eyes on. He was supposed to be the up-and-coming star, whereas Cleary kind of he was playing with him, but it wasn't as obvious as Luai was. And Richo was right in that, as a unabashed season-paying Panthers member, that he is the heart and soul of Penrith at the moment.
Where are they at if Luai goes to Canterbury? Like where does that leave the Tigers? Where do they shop then? Like
if they
which is on the cards.
Look, there was talk that a 5-year offer from Canterbury could have turned Luai's head. So I mean 5 years when you look at it, because on a single season the contracts don't, the offers don't marry up between Penrith and Canterbury, but you think maybe when you take into account what you lose through tax and everything else, and what are you going to give up for what guaranteed success or competitiveness at Penrith for what is the unknown at Canterbury. But geez, over 5 years, those dollar signs really start to make a difference. So your man Jack Cole, is that the answer at Penrith?
I got a few options there. That was one of the questions I did ask Nathan the other day about some of the young players coming through and potentially young halves and playing in a partnership without Luai, because he's played his entire career with him. So he mentioned a few names. He was impressed by Brad Schneider over that first week of training. He mentioned Dane Laurie. So he obviously showed some good signs out at the Tigers. But I mean, this is all contingent on whether Luai actually goes or not. But
and I don't know where the Tigers then look to build from there, who they look to sign, because as Richo said, you've got to have the base and then the cream goes on top. He goes, we've got some cream on the top, but they're also looking to recruit some guys in, because you can't just, as big as that nursery is in the Campbelltown area, and as I've got a list here of great young players coming through their ranks. You can't just have your local juniors. Even Penrith are bringing in guys from other areas. But who else is there on the free agency market from go to next?
That's the interesting one if they do miss out on Luai.
The other one is, when he was at South, Richo was a massive fan of Adam Dewey, and there was talk at the time that he saw Dewey as the potential long-term six at South. And Dewey's not due back to June or July with that horrific knee injury. So, and he's an unknown as well, which the Tigers just need a bit of clear run with some injuries, don't they? In that regard. So, I don't think they've got a bad squad. We've gone over this on the pod a couple of weeks ago. The Tigers, good forward pack, Dream Pool, happy Coruscant. If one of Bud Sullivan, Latu Fanu, Lockie Galvin can jump out of the ground and really establish themselves, it's going to take a little while. They've got to be patient, but that could be the answer. And as Richo said, I don't know how Tigers fans feel, but because we can't be looking back, we've got to look forward. So you've got to scrap the fact that you haven't made finals for 12 years. But
you do. It's hard though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, if you're a fan.
Bit of scar tissue there at the Tigers. It's a long time.
This is my point about having a 6-month deal, though, because, they've got 1,000 halves.
Yeah.
If you get Luai, and you got to take Luai, if Luai says yes, you got to take him, right? Because he becomes your linchpin, your main playmaker. But then all of a sudden, if you're Latu Finu, who signed on with the ambition that, he was sold a dream last year, Lockie Galvin, Benji's already said he's the best schoolboys halfback, best 18-year-old halfback in the country.
You can imagine other clubs will be circling Concord.
Jaden Sullivan, he basically just got in the door.
Yes.
So you need to have some kind of plan because 6 months isn't going to.
Yeah, that's right. No, I liked the chase for Fonua-Blake from a Tigers perspective. I thought it was good. It's a lot of money, but I think he's a great impact player.
Yeah, it's just on Fonua-Blake. So. Suggestions this week that the Bulldogs' interest had cooled, although they would not be offering him a contract. But hearing in other sources that Fonua-Blake did meet up, obviously with the Bulldogs, and they hadn't won him over as much as other clubs. So maybe it was a case of we're going to break up with you before you can break up with us. With that little bit of mail coming out, but for Fonua-Blake, the Dragons are now in for him big time. Cronulla are the dark horse. He would be, whether they could work their salary cap to fit him in, would have to be seen. As you said, Matty, move heaven and earth to get him. And could he stay at the Warriors? Could the personal issues at home be resolved? He's staying for 12 more months. Can Webster just go schmooze mission for the next 12 months, showing him what the next 3 years looks like at the Warriors? Yeah. And they're not far off, taking that next step towards a premiership.
Yeah. Well, there was some suggestion that Warriors are now thinking they can, maybe. They can sort of. It all depends on the issues, family issues he's got in Sydney. But I know our man Brendan Bradford spoke to Shane Flanagan last week, didn't he? He was quite bullish about getting Fonua-Blake to the Dragons. Very confident. Very confident. So
the mail this week was they were in the box seat. So, but I don't know. It's a lot of money, but you're buying at the top end of the market because he's coming off a career year. There's a dearth of quality props there on the market, so you're paying the absolute premium. So you've got to be very careful on your salary cap as to where it goes. But
good props are rock stars in the NRL right now, aren't they?
I'd love him to stay at the Warriors. I just think they seem like such a happy camp right now.
Yeah.
I'm not confident that they can back it up next year, but if Roger comes back awesome, Sean Johnson does the same thing. Yeah. And then that was the best that we've ever seen for Fonua-Blake.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the only time in his career we've called him the best prop in the game. So.
And you'd have some concerns about the Warriors, wouldn't you? If they lost Fonua-Blake, this is for 25. Like Johnson's.
You'd boo Santa
just
Claus.
About done.
I'm not sure they can back it up. But you're right.
If Johnson can get through another season, and there's no guarantees for that, they're going to have to manage him very carefully.
As I've said, potentially the best thing to happen to the Warriors was Sean Johnson getting robbed or pipped for the Dally M.
Yes.
Because he could use that as a chip on his shoulder to say, all right, stuff you. Yeah. I'm going to go and all out again this year.
That was a joke. That was a complete joke that Sean Johnson was not didn't win the Dally M. Just a farce.
No.
Camera in.
Just as a side note, can you believe my son came up to me last night and said, would you be mad if I became a Warriors member next year?
Wow.
3P. Can't
satisfy
kids these days. It's ridiculous.
Well,
so would you disown me?
The great stats man in Fox Sports Stats, Aaron Wallace, did make an announcement to his friends when the Roosters were going for a 3-peat and they had to change the rules to stop them, which is what happened. He said, if the Roosters win 3 straight, I'm retiring as a fan because it will not get any better than that. They won't win 4. 3's good. I'm done.
Yeah, this is great listening to you guys. What about us winning multiple comps? Jeez. Can I just get back to Matty's bad parenting?
What do you say when your child comes up to you and says, will you disown me? It's almost like anything you say after that.
Yes.
I can't win this.
What is his justification behind getting off the bandwagon?
The conversation did start with Luai. So we thought, Dad, what do you think? What's your gut feel? I said, it's a lot of money to turn down, son.
So is this a situation like a James Silver, LeBron James, and for those of you who aren't familiar with it, Daily Telegraph sports editor James Silver changes clubs with LeBron James.
He doesn't support NBA teams, he supports LeBron James. Yes. So he's been following him since high school, which is only a little slightly more creepy. But every team, so Cleveland, Miami, back to Cleveland, off to LA, and wherever LeBron goes when little Bronny James is drafted in a couple of years, James will be joining that team. So Whether he gets drafted or not, Bronny, he's playing in Puerto Rico, or the NBL. He could be coming to the Kings. Who knows?
But would that mean that with his love of Jarome, would that mean he might potentially follow Jarome wherever he goes? Potentially your son could become a Bulldogs fan. Could become a Bulldogs fan.
He could. He asked that question too, but he did mention the Warriors.
Even though the Bulldogs have said they're not going to try and poach Penrith players.
He kept saying all year, up the wires, up the wires. I'm like, this is disgusting. I can't do this.
That was pretty catchy, up the wires. I like that.
Well, again, you're parenting. What are you saying? Oh, dear.
What do you say? You can't say, I disown you.
No, you
He looked me straight in the eye.
You can say, of course you can support him, but you have to live somewhere else. That's it. I'll pack your bags. Listen, if anyone's kid has got an argument to get out of the family sporting pursuits, a fandom, it's my young bloke. So, he's stuck for life, unfortunately.
Has he re-signed for 12 months with Para? Or
yeah.
On the proviso, is there an incentive-based contract? You've got to at least look like you're going to.
Brad Arthur's under pressure. Brad Arthur could lose my son's support next year if he doesn't do well. So the pressure's on Brad. We need results. Just still on your Panthers, talk that revolving door of players out. Zach Hoskin could be the next to leave. Had a great season, breakout season coming down from the Broncos. It was at the Knights. Son of the great Dave Mule, Hosking could be off to the Raiders. What's going on?
Just goes to show you don't even need to win a grand final or be part of the grand final team to get a good deal. But if he gets a good 3-year deal from the Raiders, who could begrudge him? He played really well for the Panthers this year, but it'd be a loss. Be good depth next year, but it'd be a shame.
So you lost. Who are your edge? Which edges did you lose this year? Have you lost any?
No. Well, we've kept
Garner.
Yeah.
Sorensen, and who's coming through? So which? Because obviously he didn't play in the grand final, Hosking, but had played 21 games for Penrith and had played a little bit of centre, provided a bit of versatility. So
there is a lot of good young talent coming through. I spoke to Maverick Guy yesterday, although he's
thanks, Captain Obvious. Breaking news, a lot of great young talent coming out of Penrith.
In the back row especially.
Oh, right, okay.
Maverick Guy, I spoke to him yesterday, son of MG. It's a nice, mad young kid.
And there's plenty of existing talent in their back row too. Liam Martin's all right, so Yo's not a bad lock. Can we move on to something else? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about a crap team.
Well, we've just gone through the wooden spooners who have just changed everything around. I don't know what else we got on the run sheet. I just had Tigers and free agency. I was waiting for Reedy to call me back with some news.
Well, looking for they do miss out. Like we say, concerned if they miss out on Luai, right? Tom Dearden, is Tom Dearden a guy you would go at if you're the Tigers? If they are saying that's it for Fonua-Blake, we're going to go after a half. Would you make a play for him?
Dearden is a running half. What he did to Parramatta at the back end of that season, the Cowboys, across that right edge, he just, there was some talk that people weren't believing the hype a little bit about Dearden, and I just thought that was rubbish after watching firsthand. I'm just doing the eye test. I think Dearden's a terrific player, and age on his side, you could, there's 5 years for you. You want 5 years? 5 years at 27 or 5 years at 23 or 22?
Yeah, and he's just a little backline spark plug, isn't he? He'd be so good for that team.
Well, the Cowboys are the other one.
Buller and Coruscant.
They've got guys to re-sign. They've got their back rowers. They've got a lot of money invested in Jason Taumalolo, which is that deal's still got 4 years to run.
Yeah, the Raiders need to go there. Go there for second roles. They're stacked. Go pinch the Cowboys.
Could you see a team coming in and saying, hey, we'll take Taumalolo for $750 for the next 4 years. You guys pay $250, $300 thereabouts. Still a lot. $750 for what is he, 30 now, Jace? So I love Taumalolo. At his peak, I love Taumalolo. As that rampaging 13, and I hope he can get back to that, because remember when Todd Payton first took over, and there was that debate around minutes and not so much work rate, but maybe a little bit of that you're doing the longer minutes, but in those longer minutes, are you doing those 1%ers? Are you getting back the 10 quick enough? Are you up and backs where they need to be? Where are we in this situation? If I'm a rival club, I'm looking at any free agent out of North Queensland and saying, what can I do to get them there? But the issue is, a lot of them are local kids and probably don't want to move to the big smoke. So,
they need to keep Dearden. I'm all aboard the Dearden hype train. Give me all the stock you can on him.
He's a great player.
But I hope Jarome doesn't hear this. I kind of like him more than Jarome because he seems like he's proven it at Origin level. I'm still traumatised by when he came in for that third game. Was it last year? I think 2022, and completely stole that game from New South Wales.
Can I get your son's number just quickly to just send him that audio clip of?
Oh God!
I hope
Talk
Jarome
about
didn't
this
hear
only.
it.
But good, he's going to cost you less.
Yeah.
When you're talking 5-year deals, $1 million, put that on the table for Dearden.
Exactly.
Well, as Peter Bedell reported this week, Ezra Mam looks like re-signing with the Broncos in a huge coup for them because they're another club that they came within a whisker of knocking you. You wouldn't have been talking four-peat if had they closed out that game. But Flegler gone, Farnworth gone, and looking fantastic at the Dolphins.
Yeah,
Jeez,
is he what?
What is
Very good story in the Daily Telegraph and Courier Mail this week by Adam Mobbs. Herbie Farnworth.
Mate, he looked in good form, and I say that with no, I'm not going to say the George Costanza quote, but he looked very fit and looked good.
Great signing. I'm so excited about him and Flegler at the Dolphins.
Yeah, Kurt Capel gone as well. That's 3 of your starting guys from your grand final team.
Yeah.
So you talk about, can the Warriors back it up? Adam Reynolds sort of in that same boat as Sean Johnson, a year older now. Question marks there, which makes the Mam signing make sense and so important for the Broncos.
Yeah, definitely. Huge signing. That would have been a monster blow for them to suffer. And the Dolphins offered half of Redcliffe, didn't they, to Ezra?
Yes.
So it was a lot. Certainly, I think there was a temptation there. But great news for the Broncos. He's the future of that club. That performance in the grand final was ridiculous.
It's the same Jarome question though. Can he be the main playmaker once Renault retires?
I don't think he has to be. I don't know who the new halfback would be. I don't think Jock Madden is the answer up there.
Yeah, well, they've got big raps on Kobe Black, the young kid there, but again, he's 18 and, same with the Warriors. You take Sean Johnson out of that team, you have Luke Metcalf, you have Ronald Volkman, you have Chanel Harris-Tavita, but none of those guys... Tamari Martin. None of those guys are at the elite level of Sean Johnson yet, and these guys might be, but it's very few 18, 20-year-old halves that come in and dominate outside of Nathan Cleary. And but, even he had... James Maloney with him that first year before he really stepped up and owned that team.
You don't need a superstar partner for Mam. You need a really good nuts and bolts halfback who can do all that stuff to let Mam do his thing. But you still need a very good level of player. And this kid sounds pretty good, Black. But a couple of years, what's he, 18?
So we've been hearing about him. We've been hearing about Blake Moser at hooker potentially coming through. Next Cameron Smith, but he's got to usurp the quarterback Billy Walters. That's how he was described in Vegas this week for the launch. They went around talking about the hyping up the game rather than the glitz and glamour. At the launch they were just showing what the product itself was selling. So they likened Aaron Woods to Max Crosby. If you're a NFL fan, he's a monstrous defensive guy, and just I don't think that comparison was accurate. But Spencer Leniu was the multi-time Super Bowl winner, which tracks, and Billy Walters was the quarterback of a lot of conjecture with fans over here going, well, why don't you send over bigger names? You could have sent over us 3. You could have sent over Reece Walsh. The Americans don't know who's who. Woodsy's a good talker, Aaron Woods, so you get that over there. But
so Brandon Smith says.
What did Brandon Smith say?
Said that Woodsy was a good talker.
What else did he say?
On his podcast. Said a whole bunch of different things.
Sidestep on that one.
Leave Brandon alone.
Hey? But that's I get the whole thing. It doesn't matter if you send Stephen Crichton or Kalen Ponga over. Is what difference are they going to make? The only thing I think they should have done better was when they were showing some highlights. Those highlights when Woodsy and Campbell Graham were interviewed at halftime of that the Vikings Raiders game. Those highlights didn't show the absolute best of rugby league. That's the only thing.
Maybe they were trying to, because that game was 0-0 or close to, wasn't it? Maybe they were trying to show them how easy it is to score tries against the Tigers.
Michael Carianis, our dear friend who was always part of this podcast, is over in Vegas and one of the great junkets to go over for this launch, and goes to that game. And 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, it was still 0-0. Russ and I were sending him notes just saying, well, there hasn't been a 0-0 tie in 80 years of in the National Football League. But the Vikes got that field goal, which...
Disappointingly.
I know. Yeah. But what a stinker. They should have played the league straight after that. That would have been the perfect advertisement for rugby league.
Exactly.
So.
How are we feeling about Vegas?
Yeah, I think it's going to be like Origin. I think when it's closer and when it's on, people are going to be right into it. I think right now it's coming up. We got cricket test starting Thursday night. We've got summer coming up. We've got Christmas coming up. So I think once it's real and they're over there, I think the engagement from the audience will be there. But
you're right. Yeah, as we get there, we're opening the season in Vegas. It's pretty exciting. I think right now, it's a slow burn into Vegas right now, but I think once we're at go time, it's going to be pretty good. Although I am worried about the smaller field. It's that they've got the crash pads up.
We might just have to take out the wingers for the games because the smaller distances, it's going to be teams with weak middles are the ones that are going to be scored through, because you're going to be find it very hard to get outside teams. I reckon. So we'll see how we go. Anyway, we better wrap this up because we have a dinner with Peter Bomber-Bedell from the Courier Mail tonight, and we're also Daily Telegraph Sport Christmas drinks. So be very careful on the lookout around. Should we give away the location?
A few shushes and a few spotteds, maybe.
Exactly.
Chinatown, I think, was the plan for a feed. So very good. But thanks for tuning in, boys. This was good without the B team. So and you can quote me on that. That was good. So. Have a good Christmas, everyone. We'll be back. I think we've got a couple in the bank, a couple episodes in the bank, but otherwise we'll be back in the new year to get into some more footy or maybe even some breaking news.